Hello, this is Scarlet and Rage podcast. I am Michael, and Rage is with me. We are coming with our weekly video. We are going to try to get back on track to the original schedule of releasing a video every Monday morning. Obviously, there's way more going on than you can cover in just one video. So, you're just going to get our thoughts on those topics that we have time to discuss. In really special weeks, which probably is not the off season, as you found out, we might do multiple videos, but right now you can count on the Monday morning video coming out. And we are going to get into an array of topics today. The title may have gotten your attention. If it did, good. I'm glad you're watching. And before we get into those, I would like to ask you if you would please like and subscribe. If you've been watching, paying attention, but haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and hit the bell. The bell will alert you every time we go live. But today we're going to talk about some players coming back, players that we got out of transfer portal, and we are going to discuss the seeming change in course of the Ohio State administration and athletic department, and just the overall level of aggressiveness taking place, something that Ohio State fans like myself and like Rage have wanted to see for many, many years. It almost looks as if Ohio State is attempting to go all in to win in football. We hope that's the case, but we're going to discuss it all today. And we'll get there here in just a moment. But now I will move to my co-host, Rage, and he can give us his opening thoughts.
Michael, there really is nothing else to be said other than wow. Just wow. This is a complete 180 than what we've seen from Ohio State than anything before. It's just, what a transfer portal week it has been. Actually, no. Incorrect. What a transfer portal couple weeks it has been.
Yeah.
Just not even with who we've brought in, but the roster retention. Ohio State is not playing around anymore.
No.
And it's great to see. It is great to see the SEC on their heels, because Lane Kiffin today got on Twitter, by the way, and was talking all this smack about Ohio State and how we had to spend $13 million to accrue such an elite roster and stuff like that. Did you see that?
I did. Shove it, Lane. You guys have been doing it in the SEC before it was legal. Now, little dump places like Oxford, Mississippi hold no advantage over real programs. Live with it, Lane. We're all playing by a level playing field. The Big Ten has gone gangster. We're no longer fighting without the gloves. The gloves have come off, and you're going to see a different look out of many Big Ten programs, and preeminently and most importantly, I believe, out of the Ohio State University.
Michael, you've been to Oxford. Tell me about Oxford. Side note, what is there? Is there anything there? I don't know anything about it.
As far as Mississippi goes, it's relatively good, because Mississippi there's not a lot going on in the state of Mississippi.
Right. What the hell is in Mississippi?
Yeah, I mean, Jackson, Mississippi is not an overly nice town. There's just not a lot of nice places in Mississippi. So Oxford is like, okay, it's a decent little small town, but that's all it is. It's just a little small town. I mean, going from Oxford, Mississippi to Columbus, in my opinion, and some are going to say I'm biased, and that's fine. I probably am. But going from Oxford, Mississippi to Columbus is like going from the minor leagues to the major leagues. It's like you got called up. Like now you're in a real city. You're at a real school with real tradition, with real resources, and a lot more talent on the roster. And I think it's clear that good players from Oxford that have that are not deeply rooted in the South seem to like Ohio State. We've gotten their running back, we've gotten Igmanosa, a good cornerback from them, and Malone, a defensive tackle from them. We'll see if
we've stolen a lot of their players. I guess not stolen, bought, what you call it, whatever you want. I mean, even Michigan like Ann Arbor is only like a 35-40 minute drive from Detroit. So that's in an urban area too. It's just the SEC schools they're out in the middle of nowhere, man.
Yeah, they're
They don't
not.
have
I mean, you've
anything going.
got obviously Minnesota and Minneapolis. Madison's a
Right.
decent sized town. You know, Penn State's one of the few kind of rural type schools in the Big Ten. Of course, you got Rutgers right outside New York City.
I think Champaign's pretty rural too.
Champaign's not a whole lot. No, West Lafayette's not a whole lot, but of course, Northwestern and Chicago, USC and UCLA, both in LA now. You know, so there's a lot of big cities in the Big Ten.
Right.
SEC,
yeah. Like you said, Rutgers.
Yeah. Rutgers, New York
Maryland
City.
is outside of DC.
Right. So much more urban centric conference, the Big Ten is. It's I think a lot of people would rather spend time in Columbus than they would in Oxford or Starkville, Mississippi, or some of these places, you know, all things being equal.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just a matter of what you grew up with, what you're comfortable with. I guess people in the rural South, I mean, let's be real. There's not a lot in a lot of these states. There's not a lot in Alabama, Mississippi. Georgia is really like outside of Atlanta. There's, you know, and then you have the coast, but like Georgia's a big, just big state with really nothing in it outside of like Savannah and Atlanta.
Atlanta is, I mean, Savannah as well, but I mean, Atlanta is essentially Georgia. I mean, of the 9 million people in Georgia, about 5.5 or 6 are in the Atlanta metro area. So, So,
anywho, Michael, let's start with the roster retention at Ohio State. I thought that unto itself is just unbelievable. That everyone outside of Michael Hall, and, you know, Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't really count. He was always leaving, but everyone is coming back. Everyone. Travion, Emeka, Ibuka, Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimalau or Jay Tuimalau. That's pretty unbelievable, man. That is very unbelievable. I mean, like, that just goes to show that we're paying. Again, I think a lot of it is these guys' draft grades weren't as good as they wanted to be, but they also saw that Ohio State was going to pay them a decent amount of NIL money. So they're like, well, this is not NFL money, but it's not bad money either. And I can improve my draft stock, hopefully at Ohio State. And then I can be a second or first round pick next season. And I think that's what a lot of those guys are doing. Like, just crazy. Great news. Well, I mean, that was just great news to bring all of them back.
I mean, the rumor is Tuimalau got either 1.1 or 1.4 million dollars to come back.
That's a lot of money for somebody who's kind of underachieved at Ohio State. I mean, outside of Penn State, what has he done?
Not a lot. I do agree that that's a lot of money. The word is that he was asking for. Him and his agent were asking for.
I would have told him to kick fucking rocks, man.
Yeah.
Go to the NFL.
Yeah. Obviously, they didn't get that, but I mean, it's good to have him back.
I'll definitely take him, but I just don't think we should have paid as much as we did.
No, I do think you need to, you know, I like the way that they're using NIL to retain players. I do think you need to start utilizing NIL to get some of those guys that you're struggling to get some of those edge rushers out of high school. I know that we're saying, okay, well, we're using NIL to get proven guys, to retain proven guys, and then to go get proven guys out of the portal. That's good. I like that. But I do think you can utilize it to, get some of these key guys that you've struggled landing in high school. I don't think that you need to, I don't like the idea of abandoning putting together packages for top players in high school. And obviously we haven't, because we put together, we made sure that, Jeremiah Smith, all reports had a significant package before he came in, and that's fine, but we need to prioritize offensive tackles as well. We need to prioritize speed rushers off of the edge as well, defensive tackles as well. All of those positions we need to prioritize. So there's still,
we need to prioritize every position, man, because you're only as good as your weakest point, Michael.
Yes, absolutely. But what I'm saying is these positions have different market demands. And the big speed rushers and the offensive tackles, they just have a big demand. And so far, Ohio State's been losing out on those as far as the high school game goes. But we won't get into that because there's a lot of positive stuff going on, guys.
Yeah. So again, we'll just start with
Sawyer.
Travion. I was I guess I was most surprised by Tuimoloau coming back because I thought he was like supposedly trending there for going to the NFL, and then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking with Tuimoloau, I'm like, well, what is he gonna be if he goes to the NFL? I don't see him.
Third round?
I was thinking third round too. I'm like, he's not a first rounder for sure. Second rounder, probably not. Maybe if he tests well at the combine, and he'd have to test really well, but he just doesn't have a very good burst. So like those cone drills and all of that, he would have really struggled with, like his get off. I think his 40 would have been really good, but again, like 40 for a defensive end is a little overrated. I'm not saying it's it's a little overrated. It's all about like your 10, I guess, or like 3-yard burst more than a 40-yard dash. If you're a defensive end, it's all about your get off and explosion. But
yeah, interestingly enough, do you remember what Chase Young ran the 40 time in the combine?
I have no idea.
What would you guess?
I would guess a 4.6.
4.91.
Really? He was that slow? I mean, I guess, it's very fast for a defensive end still, but like 4.91 official 40 time. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. I wonder if that's maybe because has he struggled some in the NFL? Is it like, or is he only struggled with injuries? I haven't followed him.
He hasn't played a lot. I mean, it's hard to say he's struggled because he's been so injured.
Okay. So basically he's struggling to stay on the field. So he is struggling,
Correct.
but yeah. Okay. So then there's Jack Sawyer. He's back and he against Missouri. That's what I wanted to see. You give me that Jack Sawyer all season. He's a first team All-American. And it's almost like they just decided to turn him loose in the Missouri game. One of like probably the only bright spot in that game outside of a couple of Travion runs was Jack Sawyer against Missouri. Mm-hmm. And if they have that kind of production with him over a full season, with him coming back, I'm not saying the sky is the limit because the guy just still doesn't have the twitch, but I could see him progressing into a first-round pick after next season with more production.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about JT and even Jack is like the Bengals last year, their first-round pick was Miles Murphy, defensive end out of Clemson.
Yeah.
He fell to the end of the first round to the Bengals, and the big knock on him was lack of college production. Well, he had 18.5 sacks in his college career. I mean, that's a lot more than JT has. And this is a guy that fell to the end of the first round for lack of production. So I don't see any way that JT would have gone any higher than middle to late second. And Jack, I don't think he would have gone likely until the earliest, sometime in the third. But here's the thing. When you get two guys that are of the caliber that they could have been on NFL rosters, that's like the equivalent of like signing a 6-star, like something that doesn't even exist, because you're not bringing in some super talented kid with potential. You're bringing back two guys that are NFL players. I mean, they could be playing in the NFL. So, that's, maybe they never go in the first round, but you're still bringing back guys that are NFL caliber players. And that's big.
Well, not just them along the defensive line. Arguably our most important returner, Tyleik Williams, considering Michael Hall left. Although I'm honestly not going to cry over Michael Hall leaving. He was undersized. He wasn't really built for the Big Ten. He's more built to be like maybe, I don't know, maybe a 3-4 defensive end. I'm not sure he's even big enough to do that. I don't know where he's going to play in the NFL. He's kind of too much of a tweener for me. But I'm not going to cry over him leaving. But Tyleik Williams coming back is big. That is very big. Defensive tackles like him don't grow on trees. Like 6'3", 315 pounds. That's exactly what you want in a defensive tackle right there. So now you have Tyleik, Tuimalau, and Sawyer all back. And they're all three, could have been playing in the NFL next season.
Yeah, absolutely. And so a lot of talent coming back. Trey is obviously NFL caliber back as well.
Yes.
I know we haven't gotten to him. What round would he have gone in?
I don't think he would have gone higher than the 4th round because
probably third, fourth round.
And he doesn't have any vision. His vision is lacking. He's got a real problem there.
Yeah.
That's either something you have or you don't. I mean, you're either born with that vision or you're not. That's just something. Yeah, I mean, like, you can be coached all day long, but you're just instinctually going to do what you're going to do.
Yeah, but I mean, he's the type of guy, if he can stay healthy, he can probably have a 1,500-yard year next year. And well, actually, he's probably not going to have a 1,500-yard year because he probably isn't going to get that many carries. But he probably can have. They potentially could have 2,000-yard backs. They really could.
Yeah, and we're going to get to the guys coming in here in a moment. But we're just going to go over like some of the big names coming back. Emeka Egbuka, I'm glad he's back. Now you're looking at a 4 wide receiver. I mean, again, I don't know what kind of offense they're going to run with, again, Quinshad Judkins coming in. But, I mean, you potentially have Egbuka in the slot. You have, let's not forget about Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, maybe Jeremiah Smith, the number 1 player in the country. That's one hell of a 4 wide receiver set there, Michael. I mean, you have size, length, and speed all across those 4 wides there. Losing Noah Rogers is a loss, though. I mean, the guy, he transferred back home to NC State. I didn't like that. I think he would have been a player in time, but I think he just wanted to play sooner. And then, Travion coming back is just big, though. But
you also have something else that Ohio State hasn't had in 3 years. And we'll see how new offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien, that, by the way, I love that hire. Some people don't, but that's okay. I do.
We're going to get into the coaching staff next episode, people. Don't worry.
How he can utilize this or how he can persuade Ryan Day to utilize this, but spreading it out with those 4 wide receivers sure does set the stage for some quarterback draws and for some quarterback power plays with the defense spread out when you've got a 6'5", 240 or 50-pound guy who has the will to run it the way that they picked up in the portal in Will Howard.
Yeah, Will Howard, man. I guess we'll just start off with him with our additions. So, when I watch his film, Michael, I see a very solid player. He's not spectacular. Let's not get carried away. He's a different player than Kyle McCord, but he'll have like similar productivity. But that's okay. That is okay, because I actually thought Kyle McCord was pretty good. Kyle McCord gets ripped on a little too much for my liking. I thought he was a very solid player. He's not somebody who's going to be able to carry an offense all by himself, but Will Howard is not going to need to. I mean, he's, 6'4", 6'5". He's a big player. He can run, but he's not an explosive runner, but he's a very capable runner. Very strong arm. His accuracy is hit or miss. His pocket presence is hit or miss. But again, he's going to bring another dimension to Ohio State's offense. Like, Ohio State is going to be able to run the read option, and teams are now going to have to pay attention to the quarterback pulling the football.
Yeah.
You're not just going to be able to commit everybody to Travion Henderson in the box anymore, or Quinshad Judkins, or Dallin Hayden, or whatever running back you want in there.
And it's the evolution of the college game. Florida and Urban Meyer, the read option was all the rage. It's what everybody was wanting to go to. Then teams began to figure it out. And there was a period of time that it almost went like completely out of vogue. Like the read option was dead. If you wanted to have a highly successful offense, like you're going to move away from the read option. And now we're seeing the evolution that it is coming back into vogue again, but not in the way that it was like with Tim Tebow-esque Florida, or with Braxton Miller, Ohio State, or with JT Barrett, Ohio State. But It's coming back in that in the college game, if you have a quarterback that's capable of rushing for 30 or 35 yards, that's all that's needed. A guy that can take off and pick up the 3rd and 4 when the play breaks down. A guy who can take off and get the 6 or 7 or 8 easy give me yards when the rushing lanes open up and there's nobody open downfield. That's all that's needed. That element keeps the defense on his toes enough that you don't have to have Michael Vick. You have to have a guy that can keep the defense honest and can rush for 20 or 30 yards. And J.J. McCarthy is a great example of that. Look at his rushing stats. Were his rushing stats impressive? No. But if you look at the games themselves, he always had a couple of key rushes where he got 6, 7, 8, 9 yards and picked up a couple of first downs or something like that.
J.J. McCarthy was like sneaky fast. He doesn't look like he's fast, but he is actually very fast. And he's quicker than Will Howard. Like
he is
quicker to the edge. Yeah, Howard's bigger. I think McCarthy's actually a little faster. Arm strength wise, I would say they're probably even. They both have very strong arms. I would say they both lack, have some accuracy issues, but it's so weird with JJ McCarthy, man. Side note, like he would have some of the worst passes, but then he would have some of the best passes you've ever seen. And it's like, which one are you, dude? I don't know, Michigan fans. Maybe you guys can answer that. Moving on, Seth McLaughlin from Alabama, the center who had all those snap problems against Michigan. Obviously, he's been picked up by Ohio State after the new year. I get that he had those bad snaps versus Michigan. Why that happened, I have no idea. Maybe it was an injury. Maybe he just mentally lost it. I don't know. But again, at the end of the day, he did start for 2 years at Alabama. He even started against Cincinnati and Georgia in 2021. So that's a lot of experience. He earned a lot of praise. He wouldn't have started all this time in Alabama at center if he sucked. He was a good player. I mean, Alabama has been the standard in college football, them in Georgia, for like the past 6 years.
Yeah, and look, we don't know. I mean, I'm happy to have this kid because, either he can figure out, how to get the snaps back in line and maybe he can play center, or you can put him at a guard.
Yeah.
But either way, he's got value somewhere. He's an upgrade from, what we've got, and he's a much needed piece, and we need another piece on the offensive line at some point, hopefully, would be nice. But yeah, I like this kid. We don't know the circumstances behind why he left. Nick Saban retired. Maybe he knew Nick Saban was retired.
Was just about to say that. Is it possible that he had to sit down with Nick Saban and Nick Saban told him on the down low, like, I'm going to be retiring, man. So if you want to leave, you can.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, I find it doubtful that Saban told him to get lost. I really do. That was kind of the narrative to when it first happened. But, then a few days after that, he retires. And I just don't think that was the case. I mean, who knows? But either way, he's an experienced guy, and he brings, I think, an upgrade to the offensive line.
Absolutely. And again, at the very least, he could play guard, and Carson Hisman moved back to center, but Ohio State's going to have to find an offensive tackle. I know Kaden Proctor went back home to Iowa. Great get for Iowa. And a lot of people are ripping on, why would he go play for Iowa? Iowa's played in the Big Ten Championship the last 2 out of 3 seasons. They've had a very respectable program. Like, what the hell are you guys talking about? They're actually, if they can get their offense in order, they could beat anyone in the Big Ten, Michigan included. I mean, they gave Michigan a tougher time. Considering Iowa's defense is on the field like the entire game, you can make an argument that their defense did better against Michigan than Alabama did.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa is a good program. Obviously, it's going to be tough to win big there, and I understand going back. It's not like you can't go to the NFL as an Iowa lineman. Plenty of them have. But I will point out another miss by Justin Fry. Justin Fry, he was going to Alabama for a reason. He left Iowa. Yeah. He left Iowa for a reason. Because he wanted to go to a program that he felt was special. And for whatever reason, Justin Fry couldn't sell him that Ohio State had that same type of special. So he just packed up and and went ahead and went back home when Saban retired.
Justin Fry does really suck, but I am not going to hold this one against him because Kaden Proctor was committed to Iowa for the longest time, only to flip to Alabama actually at the last second on early signing day. So, not going to hold that one against Fry. I think it was Iowa all the way until Alabama I don't know what they did. They did something. Again, they had Nick Saban, the greatest coach of all, well, I mean, greatest coach of all time in regards to championships. I'm not sure he is the best coach, but that's another discussion. Moving on, Quinshad Judkins from Ole Miss, first team All SEC back. Now, this is where we're getting into the wow category, Michael. The wow category. Like I said, All SEC first team running back. The guy is a player. But let's not be mistaken and think he's like an all-world talent. He's not. He's not overly talented, but he's really not all that close to Travion in regards to talent. But he is smart. He runs tough. He reads the running lanes well, and he will be a great complement to Travion, and it will form the best Ohio State 1-2 punch possibly in our history. I'd have to really think about it and go back. And it's going to be the best 1-2 punch in the nation. I don't know if it's the best 1-2 punch in Ohio State history, but it is going to be the best 1-2 punch in the nation, Michael.
Yeah, it is. And so we'll figure out if Ryan Day can actually figure out, how to properly utilize the running game. The last time he was able to was when he had, and I've pointed this out many times, but the last time he was really able to have a really good running game was when he had a quarterback who was a threat to run. And since then, he hasn't had a really good, consistent, strong running game. And so hopefully there's no excuses not to this year.
No excuses at all. And just Judkins. I mean, I don't know how you like split those. Honestly, I just think you split them 50-50 between Travion and Quinshad.
And Travion's obviously got the history of being injury prone. So
right.
I mean it's great that you've got another guy that you can give 12, 15 carries,
I hope Dallin Hayden doesn't start looking around because some people are trying to say he is going to start looking around after spring ball. I really hope he doesn't because like you said, Travion is injury prone. And then now you just have Quinshad Judkins and then the freshman running back from Texas and Sam Williams-Dixon from Pickerington. And it's like, well, you can't rely on either of those guys. Like, I really hope that Dallin Hayden stays around because we need the depth at running back. Even with Quinshad and Travion, that's not enough. You need a third guy.
Right.
And Dallin Hayden would be that third guy. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a very exciting 1-2 punch. Like, Quinshad Judkins reminds me of maybe a little less talented Trey Sermon.
Okay.
Very similar player. He just doesn't have the same explosiveness Trey Sermon does. Okay. Trey Sermon was an absolute monster. Moving on, Julian Sayles. Now Ohio State is starting to go Super Saiyan in the transfer portal. Do you know what that means, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay, if you know that saying. Number 1 overall quarterback in the 2024 class. So here's where it gets interesting. He doesn't actually count towards our high school class of 2024, even though there is still a late signing day. I mean, it used to be the signing day, but it's the late signing day now in February. He actually counts as a transfer.
Wow.
Yeah, so he counts. If you go to the 247 rankings, he doesn't count in the high school rankings anymore. He counts as a transfer because he had already transferred to Alabama. And I believe he was practicing with them out in California in their preparation against Michigan.
Now, where would that have put the class? I wonder if you would have put him in the 2024 class, where would that have jumped the class to?
We would have been number 2 in the 300s.
Number 2.
Now, with all the transfer additions, so that what 247 does is they have a 247 composite ranking for the high school classes. They have a transfer portal rankings only. And then they have a overall ranking, which takes into account transfer portal and high school rankings combined.
Right.
and Ohio State's number 2 behind Georgia, but our star average is quite above theirs by I think like almost by a full point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they just have more guys than us, but we have like 7 incoming 5-stars between transfers and high school recruits. But have you watched any of Julian Sayles, Michael? Do you know much about him?
Yeah, I've watched some, and I mean, I'm excited about the kid. I think he's the real deal. I think he is. Not saying he's perfect or expect something, unrealistic, but I think that he is the better of the two between him and Erin Noland. And so obviously we'll find out, we'll find out fair and square which one of the two of them is better. But I think he is the better player. I think that he very well could be a year 2 starter. I don't see Erin Noland in that same light.
No, I don't either. And the little bit I saw of Erin this year, he was not looking as good. He's still a solid player, but he comes off too much as like a game manager. I mean, because he didn't have the weapons at Langston Hughes that he did in 2022 when they won the state championship. They actually had a couple losses this year, and he didn't do so hot in those. One of those guys lost is Jelani Thurman, one of our tight ends. He was on Erin's team.
I don't think he has the game-changing abilities that Sayles has. I think Sayles has a little bit more of that quarterback quality where he can alter a game. Where when a game's close and a game's tight, I think he's the kind of talent that he can alter a game. He can make the play. That's my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, let's be real. Erin Noland is he's just a normal human. Julian over here is a Saiyan, so of course he's going to be like from another planet and have alien blood in him. But anywho, watching his film, he's got a very good arm, but he's elusive, like very elusive. Like, I don't know. He reminds me of, honestly, sounds bad, but Tate Martell's like mobility, but he's a little bigger and a stronger arm.
He's a lot bigger. He's 6'2", and Martell.
He's not 6'2". He's more like 6'1". He's actually listed at 6'1". On 247. So if he's listed at 247 on 6'1", what is his real height? I like my quarterbacks to be 6'3" or taller, personally.
I don't care. I don't care. Because the best quarterbacks in the NFL are 6'2". Lamar Jackson's going to win a Super Bowl this year. He's 6'2". Patrick Mahomes has won 2 Super Bowls. He's 6'2". Is he
6'2" or is he 6'3"?
6'2". On the dot, barely 6'2".
Really?
Lamar Jackson's like 6'2" and an eighth. Aaron Rodgers, 6'2".
Yeah. That is
true. Who else do we got? There's plenty.
Joe Burrow. Jared Goff,
6'4", 5. Josh Allen, 6'5". So I mean, there's plenty that are over that.
Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, is 6'4".
6'4", yeah. I mean, there's plenty that are over that. Burrow is 6'3". CJ Stroud, 6'3". But I just, Drew Brees, barely 6 foot, threw for almost 80,000 yards.
That is true.
I don't think.
I guess it's just how you use your pocket and can you get to the passing lanes. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know, be able to move around the pocket enough so you have the vision to see downfield. I don't know. Anywho, that's really a side discussion, but I want to talk about something off topic not off topic, on topic. Michael and the audience, I just want everyone to be aware. Make sure you're really listening to who the podcasts that you're watching out there. Now, there is a podcast out there. They're kind of too much Ohio State homers for me. I'm not going to name them by name, but I was listening to them earlier today. They were talking about Julian Sayles, and he plays at Carlsbad High School. Now, one of these podcasters lives out there in Southern California and speaks about himself going to all the games out in Southern California and going to the Elite 11, like he knows these teams like the back of his hand. Well, this person decided to speak on I don't even know the high school's name. Carlsbad's, that's the high school name. High school schedule, and he was talking about them playing Mater Dei. And Michael, you know who Mater Dei is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Matt Leinart went there. Bryce Young went there. The best high school program of all time is modern day high school. Well, this podcaster said that Julian Sayles High School played modern day this year and blew them out, and like was trying to, speak on that like it was some great accomplishment and this, that, and the other. Well, Michael, his high school didn't play modern day.
No.
They played modern day Catholic. And this guy is supposedly somebody that a lot of Ohio State people are going to for information, and they have to believe everything. And the way he speaks like an expert, but he's far from it, and he really got exposed with that comment. And not only did he get exposed, and I could maybe understand you getting it wrong if the game weren't on TV. That game was on national fucking television on ESPN. I saw the game. And it was modern day Catholic, not modern day. How you mistake that and get that wrong, and you have your own podcast and people are supposed to listen to you as some kind of expert is beyond me. That was one of the stupidest comments I have ever fucking heard. And it really knocked this person's knowledge points, IQ points down a lot. So it makes me believe he's speaking a lot of bullshit.
I guess it was lazy reporting.
But he knew, he spoke as like it was, he knew. I get like it was like he was speaking like he knew and watched it when that was far from the case. He's either lying or he's just dumb. I don't know.
Well,
be careful with who you're listening to, people.
Yeah, absolutely. I know who you're talking about, and I think that this particular person manipulates their audience. That's my opinion on him. On that particular matter, I don't know if he was just ill-informed or actually purposely putting out information.
He wasn't acting like he was ill-informed. He was acting like he knew for sure, and he was...
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, he played against modern day and he did so great. No, he didn't play against modern day, because he would have played against modern day. He wouldn't have won 48-14. He would have lost 48-14. Right. That's the difference.
But I do think he is obviously it's a no-brainer. Word is that I've heard is that O'Brien is a big part of the reason why that move was made. Supposedly, Day was hesitant and O'Brien was insistent. If that is the case, then I continue to like the Bill O'Brien hire. Quite frankly, Bill O'Brien is more qualified to be the head coach at Ohio State than Ryan Day is. So I'm glad that Bill O'Brien is on the staff, and I think he's a guy that's going to speak his mind.
I hope so. I hope so. And we'll talk about the coaching staff probably next episode. We're basically just talking about the roster on this episode. Michael, this is the one that was like the bombshell.
Yep.
Caleb Downs.
Right.
Caleb fucking Downs.
Right.
Nothing else to be said. We all know how good he is. And I just want to address, I was wrong in my prediction of him going to Georgia, but I do believe Ohio State's NIL and his brother being in Indianapolis within a drivable distance of a Columbus helped a lot. But because now, after the fact of him committing to Ohio State, you hear reports that he was in Athens, Georgia, looking around for apartments after visiting with the Ohio State coaching staff. So he was pretty much like set on Georgia and just had an epiphany at the last second.
I don't know how much truth there is to this. What I have heard is that it would be somewhat in line with what your sources told you, is that he had some family kind of pressure that they would have preferred him stay closer to home. But that at the end of the day, when he got to Georgia and was looking around and reality was setting in, that he essentially realized he didn't like Georgia that much. He didn't like Athens. He didn't like the campus. He didn't feel great about being a Bulldog. and he felt a lot better about Ohio State. And so, I think that obviously NIL probably went a long way in making him feel even a whole lot better about it. But, Georgia is not this program that has just had this magic touch over the years. I don't think their stadium has a great feel. I've always thought there's something about their program that is less appealing than some other programs. I don't know what it is. Bulldog fans will probably be mad at me, but there's a reason you won nothing for 40 years. And I'm not saying Kirby Smart's going away. I think Georgia's going to continue to be very good, but I think that the vacuum of Nick Saban leaving is, at least initially, not helping Georgia in the way that most Georgia fans thought that it would.
It's helping Ohio State more than it's helping Georgia,
which
sure is the biggest shocker. Because we've taken a couple of their players already, more than Georgia has.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jay, I think there's a reason for that, and I think the reason is Ohio State seems to be changing course. We discussed this a little bit with our athletic director episode, and it seems that with the success of Michigan, something has finally kicked into the athletic department, to the powers that be. I think the new president is a good guy to have in place at this time. I think he is part of this, but it's clear to me that Ohio State is serious about bringing a national championship back to Columbus, that they are doing things that they have not been willing to do in the past. It was just over a year ago that Gene Smith said, we are not going to get into the business of paying high school players. That's not where we want to go. We don't want to do that. It conflicts, Gene Smith said, with our regional values. Well, something has certainly changed. Those regional values seem to have quickly gone by the wayside, and thankfully so, because this is what it takes. Michigan did what it takes. They revamped their program, and this is why, Ohio State fans, it was such a good thing that Michigan didn't lose again in the semifinals to Alabama, and that Alabama didn't raise that trophy, because that would have, there was some type of weird acceptance at Ohio State that if we don't beat the SEC, that's fine. But it's intrinsically ingrained within the program that you have to beat Michigan. So it was the best thing that could ever happen to the program for Michigan to win a national championship. We tried to tell you that. So don't say that we didn't try to tell you that. Those of you that were rooting against Michigan were doing so short-sightedly, and were doing so at the peril of Ohio State. I'll give you a pass. Maybe you were doing it out of ignorance, but do you believe us now? It was a good thing, because now Michigan is our Alabama. Michigan is our Georgia. They are on the top of the mountain. They are the ones we are trying to knock off. We are trying to climb that mountain, and we're doing it aggressively. And it just seems like things are turning in the Ohio State administration in a way that they have never turned or operated in my lifetime. Frankly, in a way that I always hoped that they would, and it looks like they are moving in that direction.
Well said, Michael. Well said. I believe the Ohio State president. Now, again, Ross Bjork doesn't start work at Ohio State till March 1st. But we do also know that the Ohio State president hiring Ross Bjork speaks to us that the Ohio State president wants to invest in football and invest in NIL and fundraising to the fullest extent. When did all of this good news start happening? It started happening after the new year, because in the new year was when Quinshad Judkins first committed.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, we've just been killing it in the transfer portal with big time guys. And it's not Ross Bjork yet. I mean, we know what his role is going to be. He's going to be more of a figurehead. But give props to the Ohio State president, because I believe he told Gene Smith to back the fuck off with his restrictions on NIL, since he's going to be retiring soon. And we've seen, like I said, we've seen Ohio State land a major elite talent since then. Ohio State's now bringing back essentially the same team as last season, with like a couple all SEC players. And Michael, like you said, it is also happening because Michigan won. We've said, and you just said, that Michigan winning the title would only force Ohio State to get better. And they are at least trying in the transfer portal now to get better.
Yep.
And they're almost fielding and this is, I say this tongue in cheek, but they're almost fielding a roster that is fail proof, even for a below average, crappy coach that is Ryan Day. So thank you, Michigan. Thank you again. I cannot thank you enough for at least being the only Big Ten team capable of winning a big game versus the SEC, winning a national championship, and forcing Ohio State to reevaluate their program from the inside out, and at the very top, including the president and the athletic director, because Gene Smith was holding this program back for so long, and now his grips on the program have been loosened. When July 1st gets here and Ross Bjork fully takes over, we are going to see some magical things happen, some serious magical things. I truly, truly, truly believe that, Michael.
Yeah, I believe the president put word down the chain of command, however he chose to do it, that Gene was a lame duck president and we were moving forward doing things the new way.
Yeah.
We were moving forward doing things the winning way. And Gene's not a winner. Ohio State football won in spite of Gene, not because of Gene. He was a hindrance to their performance. He was not a support or a help to their performance, and especially as the NIL era came. And thank goodness he decided to hang it up, and thank goodness this president went out and got somebody who was on the cutting edge of how things operate, on the cutting edge of what the NCAA can do something about and what they can't. And you know, that's what we got to do. And I'm glad we're doing it. Now, the question that we'll look at in future episodes, Jay, probably the next episode when we talk about the coaching staff, is all of this is great. All of this is wonderful. This is a national championship roster. The question is, can Ryan Day do what it takes to win the big one? John Cooper had at least 2 or 3 national championship rosters. Never could quite get it done. Can Ryan Day forge his own legacy in Ohio State? Regardless of how much talent it takes, if he wins a national championship, he becomes a part of a special club at the Ohio State University.
He would. So getting back to the fundraising part and embracing NIL, if Ohio State is a fully operational Death Star, who can raise more money than Ohio State? Maybe Texas A&M, maybe Texas. Those are the only 2 teams I can think of off the top of my head who can compete with Ohio State in NIL. Because, yeah, I think those 2 teams have more big money boosters, but Ohio State has more just people. Like, I think somebody said we have we do know we have the largest fan base in college sports by a country mile.
Yep.
I mean, 11 million fans, that's so many people, man. And somebody, like, I saw on a message board today, they're like, can you imagine if like 50% of the fan base just gave just $5 for the year and to NIL purposes to like the foundation, how much money they would have?
I think when you begin to see things like this, a fan will be likely to make that $25 or that $50 donation to whatever the new hot collective eventually becomes.
Yeah.
I think that as it was, who's going to throw money at something that seems so haphazard, so disorganized and discombobulated and unclear about what the purpose or goals of it even are? And so all of that is being fixed, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, Ohio State, if they embrace fully NIL, which they are trending that way, there's really nobody who can compete with them. Yeah, they're still going to lose recruits because some recruits want to stay closer to the home, or you have shitty position coaches like Justin Fry you're recruiting against, and you're going to win those battles. But if it's just money and the players want money and Ohio State's fully invested, you're not going to beat them for those players anymore. Speaking of players, Michael, there are rumblings still. Again, these are faint ones. That Keon Keeley, remember him?
No.
He was a 5-star from the Tampa area. Ohio State was in his top 2 or 3. He eventually went to Alabama. I don't think he played much last season, but there are rumblings he could enter into the transfer portal, but we will see. If he does, you would think that Ohio State would immediately be at the top of his list. We need edge guys in the worst way. I mean, he's one of those long edge guys with explosiveness at 6'6". He would be more of a strong defensive end, but I think he's more talented than Tui Malau or Jack Sawyer.
Yeah, love to have him. The more the merrier. And national championship roster. I like some of the coaching changes so far. We're going to discuss it more when the coaching changes become final. I hope there are more coaching changes. I don't feel like this was all that needed to be done. I like O'Brien, but I feel like there's
still left. There's still some work to be done with the coaching changes and stuff. So that's why we're putting that episode off. But just touching on Caleb Downs real quick before we go, you now have a secondary that is going to have Denzel Burke, Davidson Igbinosun, Jordan Hancock, Lathan Ransom, who's probably the weakest of the entire secondary, and Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs is going to take Malik Hartford's spot. Malik Hartford was going to go into that vacated role from Josh Proctor. Caleb Downs is now there.
And you've got
a sick secondary, man.
And you've got Malik Hartford and Jermaine Matthews in the wings.
Yes. And now you have to move Alex Sonny Styles to linebacker because he's just a fish.
You have
safety. And I don't even know if he's going to make it at linebacker, because if he doesn't, you have CJ Hicks to take his place. Cody Simon's back at linebacker, who, in my opinion, he was our best linebacker on the team last season. So you're getting your best linebacker back in Cody Simon. So it looks like Michael's having some technical difficulties, everyone. But again, back to the point, while he's coming back, you have Keon Keeley, possibly coming in with JT Tuimalau, Jack Sawyer, Cody Simon, let me think of it. Sonny Styles at linebacker, Denzel Burke at corner, Igbinosun, Lathan Ransom, Caleb Downs. Like, man, oh man, everyone, let me think something real quick. Do you realize NCAA football 2024 is going to be just absolutely crazy as an Ohio State fan? It's going to be crazy to have as an Ohio State fan. Like, wow. Like, I just, Ohio State's going to be a cheat code when it comes to NCAA 2024. Hold on. So, anywho, Michael had some technical difficulties here, so I'm going to close the show up myself. Thank you again for, watching the episode tonight. Sorry, Michael had some technical difficulties, and I'm carrying this by myself. But thank you again for watching this episode. Like we said at the very beginning, please like and subscribe to the channel. We're going to have another episode next week discussing our coaching staff. And like I just said, NCAA 2024. Can't wait for it. Ohio State's going to be a cheat code. I almost feel dirty using them in the game. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night, and go Bucks.